If you need Airbnb bookings fast, there are 3 techniques that I can teach you that'll give you results today. Open up your laptop or take notes. The very first one, you don't even have to drop your price. It's called views maxing. Welcome back, Airbnb family. My name is Sean Rocky Geach. I've been coaching Airbnb for 8 years, and YouTube has given me a pricing strategy button under my name. So this is definitely the channel to learn these strategies. Views maxing, my friends, is a way that you can take your Airbnb listing and rocket it to the top of search by hacking the algorithm. There are a lot of hosts in the Airbnb space, but a lot of them are particular. They want things done a certain way. So they have all sorts of junk settings. They either have a cleaning fee that's way too high, or minimum night stays, or a maximum number of guests, and the place can take way more guests, but they decided to keep it small. Just all sorts of particular stuff. A lot of real estate people want to protect their properties. They're not in the business of doing business, and you can get above them by showing up in search more, which allows you to get more clicks, which feeds the algorithm that your listing is interesting, so you rise in search, even if you made no changes to your prices or how your listing looks. How cool is that? Now this can be quick. What I would like you to do is, instead of using a minimum night stay, I want you just to raise your prices by about 20%, and then I want you to give a discount for whatever stay length you actually like. And to get that feature, 3-day discounts or 4-day discounts, all you have to type in to Airbnb right now is airbnb.com/multi-calendar, and it will force load something called Pro Tools. As soon as you activate Pro Tools, you can go back into your listing on the right side of your calendar where you change your prices, go down to where your weekly and monthly discounts are, and under that you'll see other length of stay discounts or other discounts. Open that up, select length of stay discounts, 3 or 4 days, and then set that discount. If you don't want to do this always, but you just have some days that are problematic, but you really want to stick to your 5-day minimum stay because you're in Florida, Kissimmee, something like that, you can use a rule set. And bonus, you can use rule sets even when you have a channel manager. So if you're using Guesty or Tokeet or OwnerRez and you want to play with stuff the way that I do, you can do this with any channel manager. Go back to your multi-calendar, back to where you normally would change prices. It might be grayed out, but scroll down. There's going to be a section for rule sets. You can add a rule set, and then you can make a length of stay discount and call it 3 days 20% off or 4 days 20% off, and save that rule set and just apply it to any days that you want to give that discount. I like to have my weekends really high and then do a 4 or 5 day discount. That'll help me get more weekday bookings. But the pricing stuff we're gonna get to later. That was just a teaser. Wet your palate a little bit. Another thing that you can do, potentially for free, is to add more people to your guest count by including the couch that you have, that it could sleep a person. And to max this out, you can go online and buy rollaway beds, or you can buy sleeper sofas, or what's really cool is there's a sleeper sofa armchair. So it looks like a regular chair and it turns into a single bed. So these are even cooler than rollaway beds now. These are my favorite because they can look good in a room. If you have a studio apartment and you really don't have a lot of space, that chair that would go in your studio in the living room next to the couch can then become a fully reclined bed and add one to your sleep count. By doing stuff like this, you can sleep 2, 3, or 4 more people, and you'll show up in search for higher sleep counts. And if you change nothing else, somebody who's searching for 5 guests instead of 3, your price, divide that by 5 instead of by 3, and your per head price is all of a sudden nicer. It's a much more efficient or much more valuable price. Now you're competing on price without having to compete on price. How cool is that? Since I already peeped number 2, let's continue on this concept of rule sets and length of stay discounts. The best way to completely fill your calendar and not end up in a situation where you need bookings fast is to proactively set up your calendar in a way that your first bookings are big bookings. Is your problem right now that you've got Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays unbooked? This happens to so many people. You might get Thursday, Friday, Saturday booked, or Friday, Saturday booked, and that's it. Well, the problem might be that your Friday, Saturdays are just too valuable and your weekdays are overpriced. And we can change this in a few ways. You can just lower your weekday prices. If they always get booked second, why not just drop your weekday prices and then maybe raise your weekend prices? And I would like you to stay open-minded. I'm sorry I've asked you to drop your rates. It's not a very fun conversation to have, but think about all the dates that you don't get booked. I like to call this hit rate. What percentage of your Wednesdays actually hit? Now, if half of your Wednesdays hit and you book at $250 a night, you're actually collecting $125 a night on your Wednesdays because you're collecting $250 50% of the time. And so if you know this to be true and you could get 100% of your Wednesdays booked at $175, then you should set your price for $175, and on average, you'll make $50 more per Wednesday because they're all getting booked. Now, there is a hack. You can get both the big bookings and the rest of them, and I'll tell you that at the end of this video if you stick along, because I want to give you the 3 tips first in a clean way. So, by lowering your weekday rates, there's a chance that your weekdays get booked first. And those weekdays that get booked first might also get booked with the weekend. Your total price for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday could be really nice as long as you dropped your weekdays. So sometimes you'll get Tuesday, Wednesday booked well in advance because you're finally competitive. But sometimes you'll get Tuesday through Sunday booked, which may never happen for you. And this proactive approach to getting your weekdays booked early means that you won't be stuck with gap days last minute. Another means of prevention, if you by chance happen to get all of your weekends booked and the weekdays are stuck, you should immediately drop your weekday prices when there's no longer weekends around. Because there's a saying in this industry that your weekdays are only worth as much as the weekends that they're next to. And I would like to visualize it like this. Let's say on the weekends, 10,000 people come to your area and there's only 5,000 Airbnbs. Well, that means all the hosts have the power because there's 2 customers for every house available. And because of this truth, more Airbnbs will come to your space. So now, over the course of years, you've been hosting, and 2015, there was 5,000 houses and there was 10,000 customers every weekend. You had the 2-to-1 advantage. But because of this, the money was so good and so easy, people started to come to do Airbnb in your city. Now, there's 8,000 or 9,000 listings and 10,000 customers. Hosts still have a little bit of an advantage. But now, because there's so many listings on the weekend, if there was only ever 3,000 or 4,000 customers that came on weekdays, now there's twice as many listings on weekdays than there are guests. And my advice for you year-round, slow season or any other non-peak month of the year, if you know that that month will have not enough guests and too many hosts, we want to get competitive proactively, because most hosts, they don't drop their prices until last minute. They just don't think that way. So instead of having to move the most, you could just move first. And this is where tip number 2 can really be powerful. Dropping your rates on weekdays 5 months in advance means that you will drop your rates on weekdays less than if you had those weekdays open right now. I can imagine you're looking at your calendar and you've got a Tuesday and a Wednesday available next week. And it's gross. There's not a price that you can drop to that you know you'll get a booking. That's a really sad situation to be in. So instead of ending up in that situation, if you're proactive, you have a solid shot at getting booked at maybe a 15% discount when no one else is thinking to discount farther in advance. And you know what? I've got a 4th tip for you in this video. I just thought of it. If you have last minute available weekdays, let me give you this 4th tip, because number 3 is a grand finale. You want to stick around to the end. This 4th tip, if you have a house or even a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, this works really well. Your listing probably looks better than most average people's listings. Instead of selling off the whole place and driving down your prices, you can do what I call a split strategy. And a split strategy is where part of the year you rent the whole home out, and part of the year you split your strategy to rent out private rooms. Now, you rarely ever rent out private rooms. You really never want to. But what you do is you make private room listings for every bedroom of your house, just in case, and you block the dates off. It's like having these listings in a piggy bank somewhere. And when you have Tuesday or Wednesday open next week, you crack open that piggy bank for Tuesday, Wednesday, and you put those listing dates on sale. So the private rooms are on sale for maybe $50, $70, even $130 per night, which you can find out how much your rooms can make by looking at other private rooms in your area. You'll find that they're out there, and you'll find out that they're ugly. And this is kind of my point. You can list your rooms that are nicer than the other ones for the same price that everybody else is selling for. Your listings will look better than your competitors in the private room space. And private room people book last minute. But houses, people really don't ever book last minute. Because if somebody wants a nice house, there's probably a reason. And if there's a reason they want a nice house, they're probably gonna plan ahead. So we just have to respect the fact that a week from now, your 4-bedroom house is not gonna get a real booking. If you get a booking, it's probably gonna be problematic. But private rooms, sure, you can get 4 couples, 4 traveling students, 4 working professionals, and rent out all those rooms for maybe even the full price of your property because of the way private rooms work. And this split strategy allows you to throw one last Hail Mary on dates that you couldn't get booked at the big rates. Your weekends could get booked at $1,000 a night, and sometimes your weekdays too. But the remaining weekdays, you now have a second shot. And with houses, I do believe in 2025, any serious host should really consider the split strategy. And so let's stop a second. You're a host. You've been doing this a while. you're a smart person. I'd like you to take an opportunity to use this as a way to creatively learn, because what we've discussed that availability matters. That was number one, views maxing. If a listing's not available, then you can't be seen. I'd like to stop and let this third tip become an opportunity for you to creatively learn, because you're more than just a host, you're a business owner. And I'd like you to look at this opportunity right now to go through this creative process with me to discover the way that you could think to never need me again. You won't have to show up on this channel and solve your problems. You could solve your own. So let's look at what we've talked about already to try to solve your problems. We've got availability settings, which is kind of like top of funnel for marketing. If a listing cannot be found, the listing can't make a sale. So what we wanted to do is make sure that you could be seen first. Second is we wanted to make sure that you were selling at the right price in situations where not everybody could make the sale because there's not enough customers. Or if we knew that weekdays that get left behind never get booked anyway, then we want to make sure that we get the biggest bookings first while our weekends are available. We're holding the weekends hostage to make sure that we get weekday bookings. This is a strategic booking strategy. Now we just learned this new 20-25 split strategy, so that way we do have a backup plan when the weekdays get booked. But think about the one thing that's missing from this equation, your listing. The best listings will always get booked. People who like your listing will book your listing. They'll ignore everybody else's. So this last one is called looks maxing. Without you spending money on new design, which is a completely different playlist that I have for you, a free one. You should watch that if you want to make your place look better. If you can honestly say, my listing is ugly, there's a playlist for that. But outside of that, you might have a great couch, great table, great wallpaper, and your photos are just wrong. Or your photos are plain and boring. Sure, your place looks good, but it just doesn't have any soul. Or your listing title is The Blue House, or 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with garage. You may be stuck in real estate land in your head. And the biggest thing that you can change is to start to put life and soul and personality into your listing. I want you to think of your listing like a brochure. So use something that I call eye candy. In all of your photos, add little pieces of flair that imply that someone will have an experience in your home. I like putting floaties in the pool. I like putting colorful towels by the beach chairs if you have them outside. I like putting the pots and pans on the stove with a cutting board next to it and a knife on there. I call that kitchen medium shot. You're gonna hear me preach about that all the time. We set the table with plates and cups, wine glasses. You can put a bottle of wine on the table for the shot as well. When you take a shot of the living room, put Disney Plus on the TV and let that glow, or put Netflix on the TV and let that glow. If you're family friendly, I recommend Disney Plus. Have books and knickknacks that have pops of color and personality. And in your close-up shots, let people see what the book actually says. Because if you have some interesting books to read that can show that you're a host of character, they're gonna find you more interesting because of the types of books that you might have in your home. These are very subtle ways of expressing to your customer that you also have a personality. And that's what people really want, is they want a host with personality and a host that has put in effort. If all you do is add eye candy to your photos, you will absolutely get results, but there's something that you can do immediately without having to take new photos, which is to rework your title to create a curiosity gap. Your title shouldn't say that you're a 4-bedroom house. That came up in search already. It shouldn't say that it sleeps 16 people. That also is obvious. Airbnb shows all that stuff. And also your title isn't really a title anymore with the way that Airbnb formats search. If you'll notice, there's a hero photo, then it says home in Denver or something like that, and then your title comes below the bold text of home in Denver, and it's not in bold. What we need to do to maximize the click is create a curiosity gap in that line. You want to allude to things that you have that make you more valuable than the photo that they see. Because a guest lacks imagination. So before you show the hot tub, write there that you have a hot tub. If you have king beds, write that you have a king bed. If you have a chef's kitchen, grand piano, anything else cool that they need to see, write it in that line, because they're only seeing some of your home in the hero photo, and if the line under it says that there's stuff that they would be curious to see, they will click to open your listing to see what that stuff looks like. And I like, in extremely competitive markets, to use adjectives strategically. Everybody's got a hot tub, but does everybody have a Celtic hot tub, or a botanical hot tub, or a Korean hot tub? What you can do is you can lightly theme your stuff and make it look Japanese. You can make it look Celtic. You can make it look volcanic. You can make it look botanical. And then you can add that adjective. And people will go, I wonder what a botanical hot tub looks like. I'm gonna click on that. And so the curiosity gap is, I need to know what type of hot tub that actually is. That is new stuff. And it's working with my students in Cracking Superhost. In sleepy markets, you don't need to do all that. You don't. But In bigger markets, you do. And the final element of looks maxing is understanding what people want to see in your hero photo. What you think to be your nicest photo isn't what makes for a hero photo. If you go to Dubai, you've probably heard many of my previous videos talk about how the Burj Khalifa is what people want to see in Dubai. So you need to have a building with a view of the Burj Khalifa, and your hero photo needs to show the Burj Khalifa view. If you're in Rome and you're by the Colosseum, you need to show that you have a Roman Colosseum view, and you'll make double or triple the money. This is what people want to see in the hero photo. They don't yet care how good your listing looks, because there are other things that are more important. So what I would encourage you to do is think about what is most important to my guest and how can I show them that I can deliver the most important part of their stay. And if it is a beautiful pool or the hot tub or really crazy cool design, or that you have a rooftop deck, or that you have a view of something special, or that you are on the water, please identify what that is and give it to them in the hero photo. In a very near future video, subscribe by the way for this one, you won't want to miss it, we're going to deep dive into the psychology of the perception of effort and how it affects whether or not you even get a click to begin with. This is one of the greatest ways to hack the click. Now, I promised you a bonus at the end here. How can you get high-priced bookings and also still get 100% hit rate? Do you remember that from earlier in the video? The hit rate is the percentage at which a day gets booked. Now, that $250 day that you get on a Wednesday, the key here will be lead time and seasonality. If you know that the half of a time that you get booked for $250 on a Wednesday is always at least 60 days in advance, then what you'll do is at day 59, you'll start to drop your rate. So keep your healthy prices as long as they are when those healthy bookings come in. You can go back into your transaction data and see how far in advance people typically book at over $300. And if you want to know how to do this, load your transaction data into an Excel sheet. Find the final price column and find the length of stay column. You will make a new column and you will divide the final price by the length of stay, and that will give you an average price. And sort all of the rows by that column from highest to lowest, so the highest price per night bookings are at the very top, and then go look at the book date and the reservation date and see how far away they are. You can even, if you're really good at Excel, do a subtraction equation for that, and you can have a new column that shows how many days are between the day that somebody booked and the day that they arrive. And for these higher priced reservations, with a higher ADR, you'll probably find that they are farther away than the bookings that have a lower nightly ADR. And where you start to see that drop off will be where you start to drop your prices. This is the workings of a lead time based pricing strategy. And if you'd like to learn more about lead time based pricing strategy, I have a free playlist here that covers a good bit of it. And then of course, Cracking Superhost, I do all my best pricing coaching. I'll leave a link down there in the description so you can learn more about Cracking Superhost and all this pricing strategy hoopla. If you're finding this content valuable, please let me know in the comments. If you'd like something else, let me know too, because I will work for you. Just let me know what you'd like me to talk about. I will shoot some videos for you. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. You're my favorite people. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.